Hi, all my LGBT friends and others. I'm going to continue with Genesis chapter 39. Excuse me. Oh, too much coffee. Okay, Joseph advances in Potiphar's house. Okay, and now if you remember, he was sold off to Egypt. He was taken by the Ishmaelites, and they were going down to Egypt, and his brothers were conspiring to kill him, and they faked his death by killing a goat and putting blood on his many coats of color, and they gave it to the father. The father couldn't be consoled. All right, so now Joseph is in Egypt, and he resided with his mistress. He resists his mistress' temptation. He is falsely accused and cast into prison, and God is with him there. Okay, so Joseph is brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And the master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord had made all that he did to prosper in his hand. So he was a successful guy. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him an overseer of his house. And all that he had he put into his hand. And it came to pass that the time that he had made him overseer of his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master woth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he had to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. Now then, can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? And it came to pass that she spake to Joseph day by day, and he hearkened not unto her, to lie with her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. And it came to pass, that when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in a Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that, I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she said, and she laid upon his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spoke unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came into me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound. And he was there in the prison. And the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Chapter 40. The butler, the baker of the Pharaoh are imprisoned. Joseph hath charge of them. He interpreted their dreams, the ingratitude of the butler. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And the Pharaoh was wroth against the two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers. And he put him in ward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison in the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season inward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked the Pharaoh officers that were with him in the ward of the Lord's house, saying, Wherefore you look so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler said, and the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me. And in the vine there were 3 branches, and it was though it budded, and their blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And the Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, and I pressed them into the Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into the Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days, yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head, and restore thee unto thy place, and thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, and after the former manner when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show some kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baked meats for the Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within the 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off of thee, and shall hang thee upon a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off of thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast unto all of his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. Chapter 41. Pharaoh's 2 dreams. Joseph interprets them. He gives Pharaoh counsel. Joseph is advanced. He begotten Manassch and Ephhraim, and the famine beginneth. And it came to pass at the end of the 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine, and fat-freshened, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored, lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kind upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and the lean-fresh kind did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kind. So Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and he dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And the Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all of the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could be interpreted them unto the Pharaoh. And then spake the chief butler unto the Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, and I and he dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was with us a young man, a Hebrew servant to the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted to us our dream. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him to him he hanged. And then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and he changed his garments, and came into Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. I have heard saying of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered the Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of a river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 kind, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kind came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such as I've never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kind did eat up the first 7 fat kind. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but that they were still ill-favored and as at the beginning. So I awoke, and I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered, thin, old, blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And then the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, and there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Farrell, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God has showed Farrell that he is what he is about to do. The 7 good kind are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years, and the dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kind that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears, blasted with the east wind, shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing that I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showed to Pharaoh. Behold, there came 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of the famine following for it shall be very grievous. And for that dream was doubt unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and send him over the land of Egypt. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and I will continue in the next video. Thanks.